Be sure to check out our upcoming Not So Solitaire with Footpuzzle, Fran, the Amulet Titan player. Exciting stuff. We hope to see you there. Be sure to check out our Twitch stream as well. We've become a lot more active and we are making a lot more content for you.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Solitaire the Gathering podcast. I hope you're doing beautifully. I hope your life is vibrant and bright and the temperature is good wherever you are. Today, we're going to be talking about some new exciting developments in the world of modern shenanigans. And we're just going to jump right into it. I'm joining you here from Canada. The sun is bright, the temperature is warm, and I'm looking forward to talking some interesting stuff with you guys. And I'm here with my lovely co-hosts from different parts of the world. Come and say hello. I don't know which order we usually do it in, so.
Sure, I'm talking now. I'm Robert, also known as Bob49. It has been raining here today, so the temperature is bearable. Joining me is whoever wants to talk next.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm gonna try and get in this time. Well, I'm Riker, also known as Judge the Bet on the internet, and I live in a desert. It is hot. It is quite hot here. But we're happy to be here, bringing some more Belcher content for you guys. And I believe that our resident Oops player, Sam.
Hello, guys. Nice to meet you again. Ashanti, known in MTGO. Sam from Argentina. Here it's winter, but we have 18 Celsius grade, I think it is. Yeah. So it's a really nice climate here in Argentina. And it's sun.
That's beautiful.
So really happy.
That's a beautiful temperature. I'm so glad that you have that temperature right now. That's great. Well, enough of this temperature talk, guys. We're going to talk about Magic the Gathering. So let's start it with a softball, guys. RCQs are coming up. If you haven't qualified, you're hunted for that ticket. You want it so bad, you're drooling for it. So, what's everyone's thoughts on these RCQs? Top 4 gets it, top 1 gets it. I heard, Riker, you have one coming up. What are your thoughts? What are your feelings, and what are your excitements?
So for those who don't know, Sharif already qualified for, I believe it was the Toronto RCQ.
Yeah, we have 2 in Canada. There's you have a choice between Calgary and Toronto, and if you get 2, you get to go both. But I had it on easy mode because top 4 got it, and we just split top 4, so that was nice and easy. But. So Sharif already got his invite. I've only been to one RCQ in my local area. I'm only planning on going to one more. It's hard to balance Magic when you're a nursing student. It's just normal life stuff, but I still give it time and effort. I'm not a hunter like I've seen a lot of the people around here going to every store, but I am excited for this RCQ that is tomorrow on the day of recording this episode. It is expected to be over 125 players. And only first place gets an invite to DreamHack in Atlanta. But that comes with the first place also gets a full paid expenses trip and hotel in Atlanta from the LGS. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to bring Belcher to this RCQ, and I just want to touch up on paper play with Belcher is a lot different than Moto. There's a lot of other considerations to bring in. If you haven't been around our Discord, we've been having some horror stories of paper Belcher play, especially with Recross the Pass. Just a lot of stuff to look out for that. I have high hopes for this RCQ. This is going to be my last one. If I get an invite, I'll be super hyped for sure. Hopefully, see Sharif at Worlds. Perfect.
Wink.
I love that idea.
But not too much to touch up on my paper meta. It's just a lot of Murktide, Titan, 4C. Stuff that I can easily do, but I am excited to be playing some more paper events, and hopefully, all 4 of us will get to qualify with Belcher. That would be the dream. I mean,
love that idea.
I wouldn't be surprised if Bob qualified, and he just hasn't told us yet.
I haven't participated in any local ones. The times are not working out really in my favor. Maybe I can qualify online for some event, but I doubt it.
Just go to the mocks again.
I mean, the last chance stuff is coming up next week, so maybe.
Yeah, it's going to be some fun stuff. That's my paper play. And I know, and I did want to touch up, we got to give the judges some credit in paper play. We probably know a lot more about how to resolve Recross the Pass than they do. And I've heard some bad, play experiences. Like I believe Sam recently had a poor play experience at his store. If you want to share,
Yeah, perhaps I don't really want to get in too much details. Normally, we all like to enjoy the game, of course, and that's the main goal. I usually for being a father, of course, and all the other responsibilities, it's not something really common that I have the opportunity to go to paper events. So normally when I go, I just want to enjoy the time. And I had a bad experience. Didn't want to focus very much on that. The important thing is to enjoy, to have a great time. Yeah. So I'm really hyped for you guys, and I hope you have a lot of success.
Just be careful with your paper play with Recross, especially.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird spell. Like, judges probably have seen that spell once in a blue moon, especially being cast in the context of we have no lands. It's put it back in any order. It's okay, I'm going to put it back in any order. And your opponent's like, what? It's yeah, that's happening a few times. He's like, what card is that? It's like, you want to read it? It's like, yeah, absolutely. And it's like, okay, reveal land. I was like, okay, now I'm going to reveal my entire deck. I'm going to put it back in any order. I was like, huh? And it's like, yeah, you read the card. It's like, oh, okay. And it's like, great, let's get off to it.
Yeah.
But I'm usually nice enough to tell them it's in any order before.
I don't tell my opponent that until they say, okay, it resolves. Yeah. I will just let them read the card.
No, I may be too nice, but...
Bob, too nice?
Too courteous.
Look, if I'm casting Recross, I'm winning anyway. Then I can afford to be nice.
For sure.
That's a very positive way to look at it.
Okay, well, this is the elephant in the room. Word around the house, word around the street is that Serum Powder is making a little bit of an appearance in some of our favorite decks. So how did this idea come about? Where did Serum Powder originate? Why was it not thoughtfully considered? Which one of you guys want to take the wheel on this one?
I think Bob does.
So,
Bob was telling me post-recording all about
around a year ago, I suggested to Sam that, hey, maybe we should play Serum Powder. And Sam didn't like it.
It's not that I didn't like it. I tested it a lot because back in the days we didn't have the Zendikar lands. I was playing it in the Treeland Serum Powder, Treeland Belcher. We tried it out. It kind of worked out in a 5-0 that a Gamer Maker did. It's a known Discord member in our Discord. But afterwards, when we tried it out in the new version, it didn't have so much results. That's the truth. Perhaps just Bob weren't playing the deck with Serum Powder, and that's why we didn't have a lot of results with Serum Powder. But the recent story, and it was really fun. I was playing with the flex spots. I was trying to find the best flex spot card in the world. So I tried out Area of Flame in the main deck instead of Pyromancer Ascension.
I want to hop in here on this one. I appreciate Sam trying to find the best flex spot, but when he threw Aria Flame in and then started up the stream, he didn't actually do the math on if you could kill the opponent with an Aria Flame. So midway through that stream, I'm sitting here going, you can't kill an opponent until turn 5.
That was horrible.
Also, it still targets, right?
Yes, Aria.
Yeah, it was.
It has to. It also has
kill the shadows.
You kill shadows, but Aria will kill you if your opponent has a ley line. It has to target a player.
It was a horrible idea.
So we learned Aria wasn't good, but what else did you find, Sam?
So after this 3-2 league, because I roughly win the league and could pull out a chest from it, I was there in the stream with, we were in the Discord channel with Sharif and with Riker, and I tried to, with different ideas, and we talk about a transformation sideboard deck with Hive Mind and a lot of packs, of different packs. And I was looking into that, and I said, that's even worse than Aria of Flame. So I was like, let's try Serum Powder again. And I left the stream. and I 5-0 with the serum powder, and I used it like 5 times, something like that. So
this is where
and I was like, in our internal chat, I was like, "Hey, I 5-0'd," and Riker was, "Oh no, please don't." And my dear friend Sharif got hyped and brought it directly to the challenge. So, Sharif.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think serum powder is very exciting stuff. Whether or not it's good, I don't know. I think it's a very inoffensive choice because it's like it's either going to be like mildly bad or it could be like mildly to pretty good, depending on what you mean by good and pretty good. But yeah,
I think if it's good, it's very, very good. And if it's bad,
yeah, I mean, it feels really broken when it's good. Like it feels really, really silly to go like powder 7 or like mold 6, powder 6, powder 6 again, mold a 5, and then like your 5's good.
I can hop in here on this one. So I'm not a serum powder supporter myself. I've tested it. I didn't really care for it, but I'm not gonna sway anybody away from trying it in their list. It's a fine flex spot if you want to play it. I just wanted to say, if I were to replace that entire conversation you guys just had about serum powder with the word leyline, it would pretty much be the same thing. I'm not comparing to serum powder is like a leyline. When it's good, it's really good. But if you draw it, it's bad. And when you don't need it, it's also bad.
So it's like bad like 80% of the time.
The main difference is that serum powder, if you have serum powder in your starting hand, and then you already know if the serum powder is going to be good and use it or not use it. If you have, let's say, Leyline of Sanctity in your hand, you don't know if it's going to be good. Maybe you play against Burn and it's great, or you play against some discard
for main deck
deck.
instances. Main deck instances, I wouldn't put a Leyline in the main deck, but serum powder feels a lot like a Leyline in practice.
It's like a main deckable Leyline, I guess.
Yeah. I still think it's a fine choice. I prefer some other flex spots. I think.
What other flex slots have you been trying?
Oh boy, here we go. So there was the whole Goldhound Conundrum a while ago. We established that was bad, unfortunately. My current flex spots are of course 4 Pact Negation. I think that's just stock at this point, unless anybody's
not
unless
flex anymore.
It's become stock. I mean, it's invaded the flex spot, so we have even less, but it's now stock. I'm on 23 lands, so I can open up an extra flex spot, and I'm on 2 Blood Moons and an Empty the Warrens.
Mm-hmm.
I've really liked Blood Moon recently in the current meta. It's just never felt too bad when I've casted it. Empty, I'm still uncertain of. In all honesty, Serum Powder is probably just better than Empty the Warrens, but I'm very iffy on Empty. I just don't know what other flex spot I would want. I think if I were to replace Empty, it would probably be March of Reckless Joy, and that would make Bob very happy.
So here's my question.
It's fine.
Yeah.
I really want to go deeper because Serum Powder is something new, and we have discussed a lot of other flex spots already in other episodes. So let's take it down. Let's break it down and discuss what are the upsides and what are the downsides of Serum Powder. So,
Okay, so like first thing that comes to mind is like if you naturally draw it, it'll be bad. Like I think the majority of the time.
Yeah, you're never usually casting it.
Yeah, I've had like a few instances where hard casting it has been useful, but then again, you could make the argument that it could be any land, or it could be. I guess Wild Cancer could be a consideration, but it might die. But like I've had moments where like I needed 4 mana to splice and kill on the stack, basically, because I needed to get 7 mana. I didn't have the opportunity to leave the Belcher on the board. And I was like, I didn't have a land. I had the Serum Powder, cast it for 3, won the next turn, but again, could just be any land. But there's also the argument that if it was a land, you wouldn't be able to use the effect of powder if it was in your opening hand. So there's kind of like a balance that is there.
And my other argument would be, if you need a land, let's say you have a Belcher in hand and you have 3 lands, and you draw just a tap land, then you will just play the tap land and pass again. So if you draw, if you're going to draw Serum Powder, you will play 3, you will have the rock on board, and you will still do it at the same time. So I don't know how bad it's clearly not a good rock, but it's still a mana rock, right? So how bad can it be to ramp if you are able to cast it?
Yeah, I mean, particularly against Contour, there are plenty of games where you're ramping for a very long time, just waiting for the turn where you can play multiple Belchers, or you can play Belcher with triple packed backup or something, or things like that, where you're just spending your time ramping on, and then Serum Powder is a totally fine card.
Mm-hmm. I think we should clarify how the Serum Powder plus a mulligan rule works.
Yeah.
Because some people will just think that it exiles your whole hand, and that can be really, really bad for us. But how this interaction works is, say you mulligan to 6, and the 7 cards in your mull to 6 have a Serum Powder. You can say, okay, I'm going to powder, but you get to take a card from your hand, put it on the bottom of your library, and then exile those 6.
A card that is not powder.
Yes.
That is not powder. Of course, yes. Card that is not powder. And this way you can save things like Belchers or recrosses. So that's kind of in favor of powder, as it doesn't always get rid of our win cons.
In fact,
I think another thing... Sorry.
In fact, it makes you finding your win cons a little bit more likely, because if you put Belcher at 6 on the bottom of your deck, sure, your next 6 won't have that Belcher in it, but if you keep mulliganing to 5, then your deck size gets lower, but that Belcher still remains in your deck, so your odds of drawing that card are higher.
Right. I think another thing we should also touch on is, like, sometimes exiling a lot of cards can be problematic. I've had a few moments where it's like, I powder, like, I think it's fine to powder sometimes, like, because you'll be rewarded for, like, say, exiling a Reforge if you don't have a recross in your opening hand. Exile the Reforge, exile the Noxious Arrival, exile the Offer. Like, I think I had a match where in my opening hand shenanigans, I think I exiled the Reforge, the Offer, the Noxious Arrival, and I think it caused me some problems. And so that's one thing. It's hard to say whether or not you should, like, not powder and just mulligan there. I'm trying to sort of gauge how hurtful it can be by sort of going more aggressively on that. But
yeah,
it's definitely something to consider.
I suspect.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I suspect that it's correct to always powder if your hand is bad, even if you're exiling whatever, even if you lose Reforge, Noxious Revival, and so on.
Would you powder a hand with 2 or 3 Belchers? 2 Belchers.
I've done that, and it's blown up in my face.
Interesting.
I
got to try that then, because I'm maybe a bit hesitant.
I've done that, and then I've drawn a hand that had a Belcher and a recross, and I was like, this hand's fine. And then I drew the second Belcher, and I didn't have the mana for Belcher, but I had the mana for recross, which was really awkward, because now I don't have Belchers left in my deck to work with this recross.
That's interesting. I established some rules, perhaps, like Sharif. When I draw in my first 7 Reforge, or I have Noxious or an Offer you can refuse, then I normally take a regular move, because I still want to have the consistency to go off on turn 3 with the turn 2 recross. So these are, like, I don't know if it's correct, but at least these are the kind of rules that I established for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I suspect that if you don't want to keep your hand, it's better to powder than it is to mulligan, almost always. And I think I'd be willing to exile a lot of cards to achieve that, to get your second 7 or your second 6.
Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, I don't really feel like hesitant about, like, getting rid of the Reforge, because a lot of the time you can just sort of ignore it and win without it. I'm not super hesitant to powder, like, Offer and Noxious. It's sometimes the combination of powdering all of those can be problematic,
exactly. But isn't it cool?
Yeah,
like, isn't it really cool to powder 7, powder 6, and still your deck is, like, super small now. You're still at the same amount of cards in hand. But perhaps now, like, moving from the good sides of the card now to the bad sides. What do you think in powdering, using powder, and showing your opponent that you're playing Belcher? Like, which are the talks about that?
Yeah, the huge thing here is play draw, right? Most of the time. Because sometimes, like, your opponent will mull and then you'll keep and then powder. Or no, like, you'll powder after they mull, so then they'll see. But if your opponent's on the play and they keep 7, then they don't really get a choice in what hand they keep based on what information you give. But yeah, sometimes it might be pretty impactful. But again, I don't think there's a lot of decks that have, like, hands that say, this is really good against Belcher. Although I could imagine, like, if like 4-color has an opening hand with like Ren Beseiju and they see that you're playing Belcher, they're gonna snap keep that as long as you have the mana to support it. And like even if they have nothing else, if they have like land, Beseiju, Ren, you know what I mean? Like that's probably just gonna be a keep for them. So yeah, like touching again on like the information that Serum Powder can give your opponent, especially when you're on the play. If you think about the decks that you're going to be playing against, there are some that are going to have hands that say, this is good against Belcher and this is bad against Belcher, so let's mull or let's keep, respectively. So, like, Murktide might keep a handful of counters, and like we said, like 4-color might keep a hand with Ren and Beseiju and like 2 lands and nothing else, because they expect what we're playing. I'm not sure off the top of my head what other decks would have hands that say I beat Belcher. Like Living End is kind of like pretty fluid, I think, because like they have force negation. They can also just cycle into it. So I think any hand that's stable for Living End is going to be a keep, regardless of the matchup, I think. Rhinos might be a bit different, but again, I don't think it's kind of that different. Like they're not going to mull for Prismari Command, and they're like maybe they have like double Brazen Bar, maybe they're going to keep it. But I think the big ones are like the hard control matchups. I think Murktide makes a lot of sense because they're shifting between like an aggro creature like removal strategy versus a handful of counters and nothing else, which is like a pretty big difference that they can choose from potentially. And yeah, like odd corner cases like that cards are just like specifically good against Belcher, they might keep depending on the deck that they're playing. But apart from that, nothing comes to mind.
Mm-hmm. So Murktide is the big one because they can mulligan towards counter spells and they know that they don't need their Unholy Heats or to a certain degree their bolts. Mm-hmm. Anything with Thoughtseize is a big one, so like Jund or Rakdos. Notably, post-board Thoughtseizes might come in from Yawgmoth, but they don't. At that point, they know what they're up against.
Right.
Outside of that, like Force of Negation for Living End, of course, but they will probably keep a hand with Force of Negation anyway. It probably won't be a card they decline. Otherwise, I don't think any of the other matchups can keep hands that particularly say beats Belcher.
Yeah, that's
so. I think I don't know if there's any other thoughts on Serum Powder and Belcher. If not, we can move into our next little topic. But I think it's definitely an interesting thing that we're testing, and hopefully there are insights to gain. And whether they'd be positive or negative, I think they'll probably be better because of it.
The last thing that I would like to talk over is, I know that we have all different amount of flex board cards. Some of us are more aggressive, some of us not. I know that Bob was trying 2 Serum Powders with 24 lands, Bob, or is it 25?
Yes, 24.
24.
The 25th land I usually run was a Serum Powder.
Oh, okay. So from my side, I'm trying out. I have been trying out since I put Serum Powder in the deck, 23 lands and 3 Serum Powders, and I'm really sticking on that right now. And also, why I'm doing that, because I really feel that sideboarding is super easy right now with Serum Powder. I know how's the feeling
sideboarding.
So I think it's not always correct to board out your Serum Powders.
Okay,
because often you want to use those Serum Powders to find your sideboard cards even more often. And maybe your Ironcrag feats or your Pact of Negations are worse than an additional chance to find your actually good cards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think whenever I keep it in, it's because packed is worse. Usually,
Correct.
Usually that's the case. But there's also the argument of what if you exile your sideboard cards? I think that's happened to me before. It's like I have an opening hand with like Force of Vigor, Powder, and like the rest of it is just total garbage, and I can't ever keep it. It's like, okay, let's Powder because we're testing Powder, so we got to see how good Powder is. And I don't think I found another Force of Vigor after that one, but still. It's a small argument, but I guess it's
but if you saw a land and you had Force of Vigor and whatever and the hand's unplayable, you'd mulligan as well.
Right. Yeah. It's just whether or not it would show up again in your hand.
Yeah.
I've with my my non-Serum Powder list, when we got Offer Noxious, I really enjoyed how these cards felt to draw. Like, they didn't feel awful to draw. So I doubled down on that, and then I tried Powder, and I didn't like drawing Powder, so instead I tried Empty the Warrens in the main instead of like PA, and then the 2 Blood Moon. That way, every card in my deck didn't feel bad to draw. Like if I draw a Moon, I'm like, oh, that's fine. If I draw an Empty, it's still castable. That's what I've liked about having. It feels like a very optimized list when I run with these cards, where I don't ever feel bad about drawing a certain card like I would with Serum Powder or PA, etc.
So this is a bit of a spontaneous thought, but what if you ran multiple Noxious Revivals? Noxious Revival is generally not a card that we considered before this, but the more I play Noxious Revival, the better it gets. Like there are a lot of uses for it, and with 2 Noxious Revivals, it doesn't matter if we draw one, we can still do a 2-land pile. Because there's still a second one left in the deck.
I like multiple Noxiouses in decks. Like Noxious can become ramp in certain hands. It can brick your opponent. You can just put a fetch land on top of their deck. I've done that before. Mm-hmm. If you're both trying to top deck.
You can brick Yawgmoth.
Yep, you can brick Yawgmoth, putting their creature on top of their deck.
Then again, they also draw it at the same time, but if they don't have mana to cast it, then it does stop them for that period.
It's also anti-discard hate. Just built in. Noxious is a great card. I don't feel like we give enough credit.
There's also like cute moments that have happened to a few times where it's like maybe the opponent besieges you and they fetch and then you toss the besieger on top and then they shuffle it away. It's like, okay, great. Now you can't bring it back with the Renin 6 that you're about to cast, you know. But yeah, it's really, really good. Like I've had enough good moments to basically dismiss most of the other options. Like the fact that it's an instant, the fact that it can recur the exact card you need. Say if you need a ritual and you have a Manamorphose, if you just need to draw a ritual next turn for lethal, you toss it up there. If you need to recur a Reforge, put it back up there. You know, if you need to bring back a Belcher or Recross after it's been countered, discarded, you know, it's your best friend. So yeah, the card is really, really good. I'm really happy that we've included it now. Good evolution of the deck.
What's next on the agenda?
Sam, you did try Powder Oops a bit. What was your experience there? I can understand that there might be a bit more difficulty given the necessity of some of the cards as singles.
Yeah, I tried it out. It didn't work out as in Belcher. Like, you can exile much easier a lot of cards in Belcher and it won't impact your game. I needed more or less like 6 leagues to 5-0 once with the... It wasn't like the worst card, but it's definitely not as good like in Belcher. If you have, let's say, a Sword of the Meek or Savage Titan or Phantasmorigan, whatever it's necessary in the combo, you literally just can't powder, and that's a huge downside. So normally, it still has some upsides, but normally it's just good once we hit to move 5. If we don't hit to move 5, because normally we already will put 2 cards down in oops, this happens like constantly, then it's not worth. So in my experience, at least from all the leagues that I play, I didn't enjoy Serum Powder so much than I enjoyed in Belcher.
Yeah, it's a particular issue on 7 because the cards that you want to mulligan, the hands you want to mulligan generally do contain cards like Salvage Titan or Sword of the Meek.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the deck mulligans really well because you don't want those cards in your hand, right?
Yeah,
So the more opportunity you have to bottom them when they would be like in your opening 7 would be nice.
correct.
I've tested Powder Oops too. That's the same thought I've had an experience when I played it.
Yeah.
Is that some cards you just don't want to exile. Like, we don't want our cards getting exiled in the first place from, say, our graveyard. Starting the game by exiling some of our cards does hurt a lot. I think Powder's better suited for Belcher, which sounded really weird when I was first looking at it because Oops is the mulliganing deck,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought Powder would have been fine there, but you don't want to exile, as already mentioned, a decent amount of your cards.
Yeah.
Whereas Belcher, you're just exiling rituals or lands, or maybe a Recrest or a Belcher.
I do want to ask, since Robert, you have been playing only 2 Serum Powder, does it come up enough that you're like noticing that you're powdering like a decent percentage of the time with just 2? I haven't tried 2. I've only tried 3.
I think it comes up like every other match.
Okay, that's pretty decent. Okay, that sounds pretty good. Okay.
So
but yeah,
1 in 4, 1 in 5 games.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, because I've been feeling like I did cut a land for it, and sometimes I do feel that I am a bit short on lands, but who knows?
So my approach to this was that the 58 cards outside of the Serum Powder are already a playable deck, so the 2 extra cards don't actually have an impact because the Serum Powders replaced cards that are already not that great to have in the deck. Because
Right.
if we knew what we wanted to run in those slots, they wouldn't be flex slots anymore.
Right, yeah. And so it will keep us on this endless train of trying to find the perfect slot. But let's take a walk over to the dark side, okay? The deep, dark pits and swamps of the mind of whoever made Black, Red, Diamond Lion, Infernal Tutor, Belcher.
Is this the deck that breaks Diamond Lion?
It's not. Spoiler, it's not. It did 5-0. I don't know
It's the
how.
best deck for Diamond Line, I guess.
I guess so.
I would argue Dredge is just better for Diamond Lion.
There's an idea. That's $1 million idea. Here we go.
Like Diamond Line, discard Oxavagonas.
And your whole hand.
Pass it.
I mean, you already lose your whole hand. Doesn't matter.
Perfect.
That's Dredge, but Dredge isn't that good.
Yeah.
I miss you,
How
Dredge.
can you say that? But so yeah, this deck I've played only a league with it, so like maybe I don't have the best grasp on how good or bad it is. It felt like pretty unplayable. There was so much anti-synergy in my experience. Like there are like 4 Iron Crag feet in the list. Like you can't Iron Crag feet Infernal Tutor. You can only Iron Crag feet for the 4 Belchers in your deck. Like Iron Crag feet was such a dead draw a lot of the time. There's a ton of like poor friction between like rituals and Infernal Tutor that you can't cycle through. Like the entire time I played the deck, the main thing that I got out of it was like you need Manamorphose and or Strike It Rich, because the amount of times that filtering mana would have like fed you at least a better line or maybe a win was like super noticeable, because you can't like go triple red into Infernal Tutor, and there's no Dark Ritual in Modern, so there's no like filtering through things. But one thing that did stand out is I actually felt like the synergy between like Grief and Belcher was actually kind of decent. Like pitching like a black land, like which were there, or just any black card, and then griefing your opponent before you slam a Belcher, like felt actually pretty good. But again, I don't know where we'd even go with that. I don't know where that would fit in.
I mean, we would have suspected that anyway, because we know that Fury is really good in Belcher, and we would like to run Grief, but we don't have any black cards in the deck.
Yeah. Maybe one day.
As we go along this train, what do we think about Tron Belcher?
Oh yeah. Thank God we didn't forget about this one.
What's happening with the Belcher community, guys? Like Tron Belcher, Rakdos.
People are just bored.
It's like mono blue. I've seen mono blue. I actually really like mono blue Belcher.
I think this is just something brewers do. Like brewers in the Belcher community brew everything around Belcher, even if it's weird, like Tron Belcher. But if you look at other deck discords, like the NIF community always has a Bring to Light brews in it, and Amulet guys always try to put Amulet and Azusa into everything.
Yeah.
Even if it's Amulet Azusa into extra turns or something like that. And you can always see that people in one deck Discord always try. That's what they know, really. We know how to build decks with MDFCs and Belcher generally. And the Amulet guys know how to build decks around Amulet and Ramp. And so that's what we will always see. And that's why we get stuff like Tron Belcher.
We mentioned these weird Belcher lists, but like this isn't the first occurrence of these weird Belcher lists. Way back when we did have selective memory Belcher, which is just recrossed but blue and worse.
I do want to talk about Tron Belcher though, because I think it's a really cool idea, however bad it might be. For those of you who are unfamiliar, there is a little bit of a text document that Bob and some others have composed, or a list rather, from the cards that were revealed to one of our Belcher brethren via screenshot. So it has only 3 lands: Urza's Tower, Urza's Mine, Urza's Power Plant. It plays I think 4 Sylvan Scrying. They must play 4 Sylvan Scrying.
And 4 Sylvan Scrying,
or Abundant Harvest,
and 4 Recross.
So that's great. Oh, yeah, you're going to recross, you're going to find your Tron land, and then you're going to do probably nothing else, but still you're getting your Tron land. And
is there no expedition map in it?
No.
No, maybe not.
No expedition
I mean,
map.
the Agent Stirrings seems kind of bad. There's a lot of colored cards.
Yeah, you have, but it does find Belcher. And and you have
and
your Tron
walkers.
threats, you have your Tron lands, and you have stars and spheres as alternatives.
And it plays Sun Scour. You gotta love that.
No map is
great.
interesting to me. I guess it's 1 less mana restricted versus Sylvan Scrying.
Yeah.
Sylvan Scrying is just 2.
Expedition costs 3 mana, Sylvan Scrying costs 2, and so it's worse. And Abundant Harvest is, of course, better than all the other options.
Yeah. It's definitely a cool deck. I haven't played it. Maybe I should, but I feel like it might make me very sad after I realize that it might be very bad.
Imagine what Belcher list would have looked like if we got Abundant Harvest before we got the modal flip cards.
I mean, I've tried. I remember when I went on my deep dark path of boredom, I think I tried 4 Abundant Harvest, 1 Stomping Ground, which just makes no sense in the shell because you already have lands now in the form of flip cards. But
the only
it's
okay. The only version that I tried out with a real land was Lotus Field, and I played one Lotus Field and all the other traditional lands that we already played in. And it wasn't. I think it was an idea from Ryan Cook or something like that from his Discord. And I tried it out a storm, Lotus Field Storm. I don't think it was better than the traditional Lotus Field combo that we have. Still, Storm is not really good in Modern. But anyways, I think I 3-2 and then I 4-1 with the deck, and then I just left it. But it was a good idea.
I tried the deck list as well. You have Abundant Harvest, Recross, and Sylvan Scrying again to find Lotus Field. And there it's interesting because your Recross you can also set up Recross piles where you win next turn.
Yeah.
Though they look very different from the Belcher ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wonder what other lands you could find with this shell where you have Abundant Harvest and Recross the paths. Lotus Field and the Tron lands are a little bit explored, but maybe there's other ones. I don't know.
We could play 1 Bayuka Bog.
I was just about to say that. 1 Bayuka Bog. That'd be great. Yeah.
Actually, I mean, if we want Grave Hate, I guess that's an option. All our recrosses become suddenly Grave Hate.
Dark Depths when? 1 Dark Depths, 1 Thespian Stage. One day.
I mean,
that would be momentous.
So the Bajuka Bog thing is the same thing as a Cascade deck playing Rest in Peace, right? Your consistent 3 spell combo or 3 mana combo card turns into Graveyard Hate.
Mm-hmm. Or we play Urza's Saga.
Yeah, the one
Urza's Saga.
Everyone loves Urza's Saga.
It's just the best land, right? And now you can have
why don't
9 copies of the best land.
Why don't we just play Beseiju? That way we can blow up a Pithing Needle.
Perfect.
But speaking
of Beseiju and Pithing Needle, I had a match, like it made my brain melt because I was playing against like blue white artifacts. They had like Teferi and Genius Smith, all the shenanigans. Probably Urza was in there, and I kind of sort of assumed that they might have Pithing Needle in the main deck because a lot of those sort of specific lists do. I was like, okay, I'm gonna wait and see anyways. They get the Pithing Needle. I was like, okay, let's just wait and see. Sometimes I just concede instantly because I'm like, okay, they're probably just definitely going to name the card that my deck is named after. And I wait. It takes a few minutes. I wait with bated breath, as they say. And I see Beseiju, comma, who endures. I was like, okay, this will be fun. And I kill them the next turn. I was like, I just had no words. It was just so spectacular. It was such a spectacular thing to behold.
For one of my recent opponents, I recrossed, so they got to see my entire deck. Then they cast Sorcerer's Spyglass, so they got to see my hand in addition to my deck. Then they named Kikijiki. Why? I don't know. But they did. I killed them.
Belcher's still one of those decks where people just don't fully grasp what we're doing, and I love it.
Well, that's priceless. It was Kikijiki. That's great. Maybe they were just giving up, and they were like, somehow he'll find a way to kill me. Let's just like try and be fun with it. Kikijiki.
It's Bob 49. I've lost as soon as I sat down.
Yeah, it's over.
I don't know. He's on combo. What combo decks are there? Kikijiki. All right, we're naming that one.
Yeah.
Kikijiki, best combo deck.
Totally battery destroyed. Poor guy. Okay. What's up in the next topic, Sharif?
Oh, wait. I wanted to mention real quick about Spike. For those who don't know, because I learned this recently, Spikefield Hazard stops the Vivian combo.
Yes, because you can ping the Felidar Guardian, so if they sack it, it goes to exile. They can no longer reanimate it with Felidar Guardian, with Carbon Guide. There are some caveats to this. If they have another free drop, they can get another Felidar Guardian, or they can just not sack the Felidar Guardian, and then they can try to go off next turn, but you still get one more turn at minimum.
And I know what you guys are thinking, and it pops in my head at the same time. But what if I'm in the situation where my opponent turns my Belcher into a creature with Karn the Great Creator, and they have Liliana of the Veil on board? Now I know where you're definitely thinking this is going to go. Now what if my opponent makes me sacrifice my creature Belcher? Well, fear not, because you can Spikefield your Belcher to get into exile. And then you can play your own Karn the Great Creator and bring it back. Now, I know that might
exactly where my mind was going.
I know. I think everyone listening
exactly
everyone listening is like, thank you. That was exactly what I was thinking. Well, you're welcome.
Are we going to dive into Prison Belcher again at some point?
Well, please. But what I do want to say is, it's really interesting how many new applications we are finding for the same spell lands that we're having right now. Like, that's really something. Like, we already knew Spikefield doing a lot of interesting things for the last sentence of the card. So right now, it's really interesting for me because I used it a lot against Yakmoth, for example, and now with this Vivian combo, of course, it's super random, but you still can use it.
Yeah.
You have no new deck building inclusion cost. The card was always there, but now it has another use.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time it feels so busted that we got removal in our deck, and it's a land. It's like, here's my removal hand. Like, Spikefield your Ragavan, and then play a land, and then Spikefield, and then play my Spikefield land. It's like, great. I have all this removal in my lands.
I'm going to bring back this topic that was discussed a long time ago, and that was, how does Crucible of Worlds interact with our modal flip card lands?
As far as I'm aware, you can play them as their land, but you cannot cast a spell.
You can't cast a spell, but you can Spikefield the Ragavan and then play the Spikefield from the graveyard.
That's correct.
I love that. I think they fixed the bug on Magic Online where you could discard the land side of your card to Kroxa, and you'd lose 3 life. I think they did too. It's like, if you guys have the option to lose 3 life, you can take it, discard the other side. Great. I think they fixed that. because it didn't give me the
Yeah,
option last time.
This sounds
Right.
like a bunch of nonsense that we're spouting, but I do like that
How dare you?
for our
What?
very
Nonsense. This is like the most
Okay,
lucid
sorry.
conversation I've ever had.
Wait. But there
is
was.
grabbing
Sorry, Riker. There was something.
grabbing your Belcher that got sacrificed to a Liliana with a card is very, very serious. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Everyone literally thought of that. As soon as we said we could interrupt and like exile a creature when it's about to die, that's literally what everyone thought of. You can't tell me
No,
actually
but-
I
what.
thought.
You're gonna get like a
I
million
think
DMs saying, "What are you talking about?" We all immediately thought of that. You're gonna wait for the DMs. I'll be
The
waiting.
moment
I
you
think
said
it's-
Liliana, we knew what was going on.
I think
Exactly.
it's a great thing though that we can do all these little interaction points with our deck, but we can also build the deck in so many different directions. They're not very necessarily good, but it's something that we do it because we can, right?
Yeah, it keeps things interesting for sure. Like I've never been like so continually interested in like a deck archetype like ever. So that's nice for sure.
And we're learning new things about Belcher every day, so with a lot of interactions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any new spells introduced to the format, we can find interesting interaction points. Like one of my favorites is casting Valakut Awakening with an active PA. That just feels so good.
Yeah,
That feels so good.
That's a very good.
smooth like butter.
You can't see us, but we're all nodding, just like that is good.
That's the good stuff.
I really enjoyed
Right,
the natural activation of my Pyromancer Ascension. I think I have the trophy in most natural Pyromancer activation.
Yeah, I don't know how you do it. So
Because he keeps it in so often.
Because I believe in the card. I love it. But there was I kind of want to go back to a Flexport card that Bob mentioned in the Discord, and we were talking about Dead and Gone. I think we did it like really short, Bob. But do you want to give some insights regarding why we would play that Gone, the split card?
Which card?
Dead
Dead
gone.
Gone. It's a good.
Oh, Dead/Gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dead Gone is obviously a burn removal spell. So the two other candidates you could run are Lightning Bolt and Fury. Now, Dead/Gone gets rid of a lot of cards that the other two do as well. It is instant speed, which Fury is not. So the main comparison is Lightning Bolt. You can get rid of Lavinia, unlike with Fury. And the Dead part gets rid of almost everything you want to get rid of that Lightning Bolt does as well. There's only very few cards like Archon of Emeria where you really want the Lightning Bolt. However, you also get the other half of the split card that Lightning Bolt does not. And with the gone half, you can use that to get rid of things like Serra's Emissary or Archon of Cruelty that you have no chance of getting rid of with the Bolt. And you have random stuff like hammered creatures that you can bounce now. And that can be a blowout that people certainly are not expecting.
Murktide too.
Yeah,
Yes,
like big thing and yeah, like big thing in the
I think,
sorry, go ahead.
I think the conversation of Dead Gone started when somebody wanted to know a budget alternative to Fury. And we, just instinctively went, "Oh, Lightning Bolt, you can replace it." But maybe it was Bob. I don't remember who mentioned Dead Gone, but I think that's when we learned that Dead Gone is.
So the argument was that any shock with upside, if the upside is significant enough, is probably better than Bolt because the third damage matters so little. And so we ran through the various options, and I don't know who, but someone else suggested Dead Gone. I thought that was a sorcery, and so I didn't want to suggest it. But apparently it's an instant, and so it's probably the best option.
Yeah, it's so if you need, if you're buying into Belcher and you want to start out cheap, Dead Gone is a fine replacement to Fury. It won't be as good as Fury, but if you want to save, $50, it's probably the best option.
In some spots, it might be better than Fury. Like bouncing Murktide, you can't kill Murktide with Fury most of the time unless you have like two of them. But at least in like Legacy, if you're playing like Red Prison, Dead Gone is a huge card against like Delver. First of all, it kills Delver and Darcy if they don't have Delirium, and it bounces Murktide, which is like really, really huge. So yeah.
there's always a lesson. If it's being played in Legacy, then the card is something that you need to consider, right?
There you go.
Yes. And something you also learn from this, if there's a split card or a card with two modes, the second mode will also come up eventually.
That's good. That's nice.
Yeah.
I think every modal card has come up before, even if they are weird enough, like Songmet Treachery, where you can, for example, take over a Death Shadow to hit for lethal.
I don't know if I've ever had a hit on a Turn Timber Symbiosis, though.
I have.
You have?
I have done it, because I had an active Pyromancer Ascension, and my opponent had Leyline and Stony Silence, I think. And I already played out my Emeria's Call, so I couldn't make infinite creatures, and this was before Noxious Revival, so that wasn't an option either. So I was thinking, how can I win this game? I have Pyromancer Ascension, so I have my entire deck available as often as I'd like. Then I looked through my deck and I saw Magus of the Moon. And of course, simply having Magus of the Moon is not quite that big of a clock. Of course, I have Pact of Negation, so I can win anyway. But with 3 counters on the Magus of the Moon, that's already a 5/5. And that wins way quicker. And so I cast Turn Timber Symbiosis many times in that loop, and finally got the 2 5/5 Magus of the Moons that won in 2 turns.
Oh, that's great. That's good. Those kind of stories make me have hope in the world. That's perfect.
I mean, on the other hand of that, I've had my opponent Thoughtseize my Emeria's Call and then cast it with their Voidwalker. That didn't feel good.
Yeah, the poor interaction, unfortunately for us. Not so good. Like Seagate Restoration, that one I've had memories of that. It's like, draw 6 cards. Okay, perfect. Yeah, love that. 6 cards for free. Don't mind if I do. Okay. Yeah.
Did we have anything else we need to cover? Is this part where we get to...
Yeah, I didn't have any other bullet points, but like, if do you guys have any other thoughts you want to get off your chest? Any inspirations, expectations? I mean,
we can plug some more of our content stuff. Like we're getting our Twitch up and running. It's more consistent. We'd love to see you guys there.
Yeah, Twitch.
Like see us in practice. It's usually just Sharif and making Sharif mistakes every now and then. It's a great time. It's fun to watch.
And we're judging Sharif silently. Oh yeah, always. Sometimes not so silently.
Constructive compliments, I like to call it.
Sometimes we have watch parties where we just watch Sharif stream.
I love that idea. I love the idea of knowing that people are watching all the time and talking about me. It's perfect.
Well, yeah, we got like sound bites and stuff.
I hate them. I will never let up on this. It's like they're just like, if I ever hear this in my ears, like if I'm streaming for like 8 hours in a challenge, I will just like self-destruct. But I don't know. We'll see.
I have a question.
Okay.
What do you guys expect from Dominaria United? Do you have like high expectations, low expectations? Do you think that
Here we go.
Relevant is going to come in or not?
Here's my card idea. Okay. Teferi, you may cast no spells. 2 mana, 1 blue, 1 white. Okay. He starts with 7 loyalty, -5. For the next 5 turns, your opponent can't cast spells. +2. Let me think. Draw 3 cards, then discard a card. Tap up to 5 permanents your opponent's control. Then, no, I'm not done yet.
They go on top in the next turn.
-17. Exile any number of target players' libraries. I mean, it's a little like, I don't know if it'll see play. It's kind of fringe. Like maybe I don't think it's modern playable. It might be Pioneer playable. But we'll see. We'll see if it does
You started off with a blue-white 2-mana Planeswalker, and I thought it would be great in Emeria, and then I realized it was a joke.
I think it would be great in Emeria.
Okay.
It's really powerful. Starts off with like 7 loyalty, -5, like no spells for 5 turns. Pretty good.
I don't think we're getting any modal flip cards anytime soon. Again,
no, but we might get some artifact synergy. I'm still waiting for like a creative or like a madcap experiment that doesn't kill you, but you reveal until you hit a permanent. And
like a
all the
better
other
shape
decks,
now.
they hit the land and they're sad, but we always hit the Belcher.
Yeah, I think
Like,
that's like pretty reasonable to expect at some point, because there's like it's pretty reasonable effect to expect.
If we're bringing back Phyrexians, that means artifacts usually come along. We get some sort of powerful Phyrexians.
Yeah, I mean, if you get like an artifact tutor, that's better than
Gitaxian Probe Part 2.
But where I was going with this is, how would we like to see a colorless modal flip card spell land? Where it's like a Sorcerous Spyglass on the front and a tapped colorless land on the back.
Yeah, that would be cool.
It might be disappointing because that will be hit by Ragavan, but otherwise, yes.
I would like to see some colorless modal flip cards, see what they offer.
If it's an artifact on the front, I have the perfect brew for it. Metalwork Colossus, of course. But even in Belcher, like, I don't care that much what my off-color lands are. Sure, now with offer, it's nice to have blue source, but if there was something that's colorless on the front side, because the land is, of course, the front that matters. But if it was useful in any way, then I'd love it.
Yeah, I agree.
I love little moments where like offer you can't refuse is good, because I counted my opponent's glimpse of tomorrow with offer and then I untap and won.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I wonder how many points these new cards are giving us. I'm assuming a good amount, because these new cards are just so much better than
every time I stream, the offer or the Noxious Revival wins a game. At least one.
Yeah, I saw that.
Every time you stream, Bob, the stream crashes within 20 minutes.
Not last time, but otherwise, yes.
Smooth.
And I have no idea why.
I'm going to buy all the Noxious Revivals right now before the stream is going to go live, because Bob already suggested it, and everybody's going to play it. So
yeah, I'm
Bob's got a word of command.
Oil ones are so expensive. So sad.
It's I was still waiting on Bob to shoot up the price of Recross. I still own like 40 copies of Recross.
So jealous of the guy in Discord who has foil Russian ones. It's like my dream.
Oh, wow.
I think I spiked it out of Penny Dreadful for a while.
Nice. That's an accomplishment.
Oh man, then Penny Dreadful players hate you.
Yeah, why can't I recross the paths?
I mean, they also have their piles, like they do Experimental Frenzy instead of Reforge the Soul, but it comes down to the same thing.
We are getting close to the end. Is this part where we get to sponsor and do our rambling?
Yeah.
Rambling.
Yeah.
If this is, your first time around listening to our stuff, we also have our Not So Solitaire segment, which is great. We are very excited to do that. And for this month's Not So Solitaire, if you are listening to this episode, the month of August, we are interviewing F. Pavlush, a very well-known Titan player, and a very special episode with that one, as well as we have a 100% Spanish Not So Solitaire episode with F. Pavlush. Big thanks to Sam for doing that episode with him. So, for Espanol speakers, it's a very, very big thing. We also have the English one to accompany it, but there is some, different questions in the Spanish one. So if you are bilingual, perks to you, more content for you.
We'll make sure to have also somebody in German so that Bob can do an interview in German.
Yeah, we need to get a German player so that Bob can
about
interview.
that at some point.
Perfect.
We need a Chinese one for Sharif.
What? Oh, what?
I don't know.
No, Russian was Sharif, not Mandarin.
Definitely.
Yeah, I heard Sharif likes Russian cards, so he must speak Russian.
Yeah, a little bit.
Well, no, he knows a little.
The Russian's very, very bad. Very, very bad. Very fluff up.
So yeah, we have the Not So Solitaire. We also have our Twitch streams. I'll have a link to that down below if you want to check it out.
Yeah,
Get to see people.
The Not So Solitaire stuff is really fun, really, really engaging stuff. Even if you don't, for whatever reason, love what you're listening to right now, you'll probably love the other stuff even more. Because it's just
Not
really
So Solitaire is an exclusive. We aren't just talking Belcher or talking shop. We're just talking about players, the stuff they play, what they enjoy.
Yeah, it's really personal. For sure. It's really great. So yeah, does anyone have any closing thoughts? Otherwise, it looks like we're at the end of the line here, you know, for today's session.
You too should try Serum Powder and tell us how you like it.
Yeah, the more people that play Powder,
Yeah.
the more results we can get back.
Absolutely.
We'd love for you to try it as well.
Then you have to flood the 5.0 dumps with Serum Powder and be like, oh, Serum Powder, Serum Powder. What's happening?
Let's find
Like my Serum Powder prices, please. I don't want them anymore.
Let's find out together if it's any good or bad.
Yeah. Serum Powder Hive Mind.
Is it time to say goodbye? Or
I think so. Okay, everyone. Well, cheers for listening. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed. You know, I hope you had a glass of water, a bit of a snack, and, you know, enjoyed listening to us talk Magic. And I hope we get to hear from you again. But yeah, adios from Canada.
yeah, that's goodbye from the United States. We'll see you in the next episode.
Ciao from Austria.
Auf Wiedersehen. Von Deutsch. No, I'm in Argentina. What the heck? No, sorry.
Perfect.
Like,
Okay, just